Rap About It with Mal Adams, a weekly minority affairs series of the Nebraska ETV network. Each week, Rap About It focuses on a key issue concerning American minorities. This series also explores current and topical news events in an effort to bring into sharper focus the implications of these events for the minority community. And now your host, Mal Adams.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this edition of Rap About It. We're coming to you from Dana College in Blair, Nebraska, where I have as my guest for the second time on the Rap About It program a political satirist, a comedian, and an author. Would you all join me in welcoming Mr. Dick Gregory? Dick, I'd like to get right into the recent investigation that is beginning to open up on the Kennedy assassination. How did it happen that you testified before the Rockefeller Commission?
What had happened was it was dealing really with some pictures that we had that showed three tramps, supposedly tramps. These pictures was taken in 1963 in what was called Dealey Plaza. We started looking at the pictures, and some very interesting things started happening with the pictures. These three, as I said, so-called tramps was arrested. They were arrested directly in connection with Kennedy being shot. They were booked under a John Doe, which means they didn't use their names, and they were released without being fingerprinted. These are the pictures here of the three so-called tramps. These pictures were taken in 1963. When you blow these pictures up, the tramps really don't look like tramps because you don't see dirt in their skin. You see they have fresh haircuts, they're clean-shaven. The shoes they have on don't look like tramp shoes. Now, bearing all this in mind, and the fact that it was very strange that these tramps, plus 12 other people was arrested altogether, that was also booked under John Doe. Now, when you interview the cops that was involved, they said that they started arresting people that they thought was acting suspicious, and the reason they let them go, they started showing Secret Service credentials. Now, when you go back and look at the map of the Secret Service layout of where their agents was, where the police made these various arrests, the Secret Service map don't show agents in those areas. Now, what happened is, if you look at these so-called tramps in 1963, and then compare them with some folks that got arrested in 1973 when their picture ran in the Watergate, you see E. Howard Hunt and Frank Sturgis was arrested in Watergate. You see a strong similarity between the second tramp and E. Howard Hunt and the end tramp and Frank Sturgis. Now, if you look at the front tramp in the front, this is a guy named Frenchie. They call him Frenchie. His name is Raoul. Now, here's a very interesting thing, because here is a picture right off the center, the picture. This is a picture of that first tramp right here. And if you look at it, you see it's just like it. When Martin Luther King was killed, the FBI sent out a sketch of who the witnesses said looked like did it, and it's an exact replica of Frenchie, not of James Earl Wright. Now, how the FBI can send this out? Now, they didn't send these out together. This went out of what the assailant of Martin Luther King looked like. And it is so close to this front tramp. Then you ask, why hadn't the FBI, brought up certain questions and things? And so, with these three pictures, three tramps here, we decided, thanks to a guy by the name of A.J. Weatherman, who had re-exposed these pictures through a hippie newspaper, and a lot of interest started being stirred up. Remember now, when the pictures was taken in '63, there was nobody to compare them with, because if it is Hunt and Sturgis, we don't know what CIA agents look like, because normally CIA agents never get their picture taken.
Right.
This was a freak accident where they got caught in Watergate, and you could compare them. Now, we never said at no time that it was Hunt or that it was Sturgis. What we have said is that the similarity is close at this day and age. We don't know Hunt and Sturgis. We don't know what they look like then, assuming this might not be them. And so we're saying that anybody like E. Howard Hunt, who have admitted that in 1961 they was head of domestic intelligence, which is a violation of their charter and a violation of the Constitution, then we say to the law enforcement agencies, the FBI and the CIA, that there should be a thorough investigation, not only to say to the American people that this is not them, but to tell us who it is. Now, we decided we would run those pictures. Yeah, we'd come off, we'd run from New York to Los Angeles. We tried to dramatize the two things. One, the world food problem, and two, a food that we put together that we think can wipe out world hunger, that needs no cooking or no refrigeration. And we think we could feed 2 billion people a day, 3 meals a day for as cheap as 36 cents for the 3 meals, and all it would cost to manufacture is about 5 cents. The basic ingredients being in it is kelp, K-E-L-P, which we feel is almost the perfect food, actually seaweed. And there's so much of it just laying around that's not being used that we think it could really turn the difference, not only starvation-wise, but health-wise. And
a book or a list of publications where people can find out about the types of nutritious foods that are available and they should be ingesting?
Yeah, well, the simplest way is to go to a health food store. And I advocate everybody go to health food stores and buy the health food and don't buy the literature. Is wasting their time. Because there's a lot of things in the health food store every particular person don't need. And if you're going to move into something, a lot of other people are going to get interested when they start seeing your skin clearing up. And if you've been able to read and know some of the things that you're doing, you can help inform the masses. But we have a book list that we sent out with not just books about health, but political books about what's going on in the country, survival books. And if anybody would just write to me, Dick Gregory, Health, Plymouth, Massachusetts, we'll send them the list, and they can either go to the library. That's the good thing about the book list. Let me give you that number again, Dick Gregory, Health, Plymouth, Mass. They can go to the library and check the books out, because a lot of people don't have the money to buy the books. And this is something that we talk about, people growing gardens and stuff like that. It's important that the government get involved and say, you know, because of the food crisis, it's important that we have gardens. There's a lot of people that don't have the money to buy the seeds or the equipment that you would need. And this is why we suggested to the State Department that there should be like a lending library to loan people the equipment that you would need, and then you bring it back, you know, and then have the government set up areas where for people that overplant more than what they need, that we'd have a collecting spot, you'd bring it, and the government would buy it and distribute it to the old folks, to people that live in high-rises that don't have areas where they can plant their own stuff. And I think that's very important. For the first time in the history of this country, there's a raid on poor folks' food. And with the weather pattern looking like it's going to be this coming spring and summer, there's a possibility that the food prices will go so sky high that millions more of Americans will stop eating as much meat as they've been eating and go to beans and rice. Well, there was a 5-month pattern last year where the price of hamburger across this country in many areas decreased between 40 to 60 cents a pound, and there was an 18-month pattern in the last 2 years in many areas where the price of beans and rice increased 80 to 95 cents a pound. Now, if the weather pattern, is as violent and as vicious as it looks like it's going to be, and millions or more people turn to beans and rice, there's a possibility the price of beans and rice will go so sky high that we will literally force between 40 to 60 million people out the supermarket. If this happens, this country will be leveled to the ground within 6 days, 6 weeks' time. What we really need is the government immediately to set up a new cabinet post and call it the Commissioner of Food, the Secretary of Food and Nutrition, and let the Secretary of Agriculture still deal with corn and cattle, but let somebody deal with the human needs, because I don't believe the farmers will tear this country up, and I don't believe the cattle will tear this country up. Although Mrs. O'Leary's car did get credit for burning the town down, but I believe Mrs. O'Leary got drunk and went out in the barn and milked the bull by mistake. So I think that what we also need is a basic staple, either beans or rice, and we need to put it under rationing. And so that at the height of the food shortage, that the masses of the poor and the unemployed will still be able to get to their basic needs per day without worrying about diverting to violence. I mean, it's very obvious when you look at the pattern of old folks that's being arrested for shoplifting. Now, it's very obvious because they're not being arrested shoplifting in hardware stores, and they're not being arrested shoplifting in department stores. It's only in grocery stores. And if we don't do something about it quick, this country's really going to be in trouble.
You've been traveling around the country arousing people's consciousness to the problems of food and nutrition, but the things you've been saying about the CIA and the evidence that you bring up, do you fear for your life?
No. There's a lot of people that's been killed under mysterious circumstances. The tramp pictures that I just held up a few minutes ago was taken by a guy by the name of Jack Beard, who was a reporter with one of the Dallas newspapers. 3 weeks ago when these pictures ran around the world, he was still alive. 8 days ago, he was dead. I see a lot of mysterious things happening. I don't worry about it. I feel pretty safe from two standpoints. One, I don't think the CIA or whoever would do the killing would kill me as much as they'd like to discredit me. I think once they discredit you, then they can kill you and make it look like suicide. Two, if anything happened to me or my wife or 10 kids, America's bigger than us. And just the fact that we've been able to work and pull some strings and get the Zapruder film, which has been suppressed for 11 years, showed on nationwide television, and the fact that something like 38 million people looked at it. The fact that last week alone, 3 to 4 major publications that had thorough articles, which, things are beginning to come out now. A lot of Americans didn't realize at the same time Kennedy was being shot in Dallas, all the telephone was being blown out in Washington, D.C. Had the press printed that, it might have been very difficult for the American people to swallow that Oswald was alone assailant. At the same time Kennedy was being killed, everybody in his cabinet except his brother, Robert, was on a plane on their way to Tokyo, and when they sent the message to the plane, what had happened, McNamara didn't know what the message said because the code book had been left off the plane. The fact that Lee Harvey Oswald got the job in the Texas Book Depository on the 16th of October, well over a month before Kennedy came to town. And there's some questions that the press should have asked. A man with the communist sympathizing background that Oswald had, it's next to impossible to get a job in the city of Dallas working for a city agency. Two, if Oswald was the lone assailant and he got the job in the book depository so he could shoot Kennedy, it don't balance, because the day Oswald got the job at the book depository, Kennedy parade route wasn't supposed to pass Dealey Plaza. And if Oswald didn't know that and didn't have the power to change it, then how was he in the book depository well over a month in advance and just happened to have been at the right place? And these are very legitimate questions that's beginning to be asked now. And the more these questions are asked. And so we would say that we don't have no fear. There's been weird things. There's a couple places I've gone to that the FBI have been there ahead of me and said they was worried about something might happen to me. One place the guy told me the FBI said they thought I might have been involved in a bank robbery or something like that. But there's we decided we would run those pictures during the Christmas holidays of '74, and we were trying to think of some way of getting it out to the American people so they could see it. And in the process of doing that, we decided we'd rent some billboards around the country. And these billboards we were going to run during the Christmas holidays, and in hopes that the press, and television, everybody would run these pictures in the homes of the American people, because we thought it was that important. Not just the fact that there's a similarity, but if the American people would have known that the President of the United States had been shot and some people is arrested and they book them under a John Doe and don't fingerprint him and let him go, we think a lot of questions would be raised. And so in the process of getting these billboards, one billboard at 42nd and Broadway in New York City in Times Square would have cost about $40,000 for the month. We weren't able to raise the money, so the billboard thing fell apart. So then we decided we would go to the White House on Christmas morning at 7 o'clock and demonstrate in front of the White House against the CIA, which means it's been the first major demonstration against the CIA in the history of this country. What we were planning on doing was going with Santa Claus outfits and try to create some unique way of being in front of the White House at 7 o'clock in the morning, Christmas morning, to get these pictures exposed across the country. Well, I went on fast, as I always do when I'm trying to get a direction, and I never got the energy that I needed. And so at the last minute, I canceled the demonstration at 7 o'clock in the morning. Christmas morning at 7 o'clock, at the time we were supposed to be in front of the White House, the news went around the world about a black guy that crashed through the White House gate with a car full of dynamite. Now, remember, when the news first went out, it wasn't about a black guy. They said it was an Arab with a car full of dynamite. If we'd been there, that the car would have been blown up, and a lot of people would have felt that it was the work of a mad Arab. After it was over, they tell us now that the car didn't have dynamite in it. Well, there are cameras that the government have that they can take a picture of your car and from the heat level tell if it's dynamite or if it's wood or if it's a milk bottle. Now, we know that they had access to do that. And if they knew it wasn't no dynamite, why didn't they move in sooner than they did? Now, that night, Christmas night on NBC News, the Secret Service admitted that they had been following that guy for 2 days. And the question had to be asked is, how do you follow a guy for 2 days and still let him crash through the White House gate? And he got that car within 10 feet from where the president sleeps. I was just outraged over it. And I decided to send a telegram to the president. I sent a telegram to Gerald Ford Christmas evening. And in the telegram, I asked that there would be a thorough investigation of the CIA's domestic activities, that the President of the United States would see to it that the CIA would be investigated, one, of running guns to juvenile gangs in the large major cities, two, have infiltrated police departments across the country, three, have they infiltrated the labor unions, have they infiltrated the press. Now, that telegram went out on the 5th of December 74. Since then, many of the AFL-CIO have admitted that the CIA have funneled money through their union to the worldwide trade movement around the world. Since then, the CIA have admitted that they've been riding in police cars in Washington, D.C. with cops. Also, we asked that there be a new investigation of the incident where it was admitted that hundreds of millions of dollars of heroin was smuggled into this country from Vietnam, sold up inside the bodies of dead American servicemen being shipped home for burial. We don't believe, shipped home to America for burial. We don't believe that anybody could handle an operation like this other than the CIA. And so this is what the telegram went out. We asked the president to see if there was a link between the assassination of John Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King. Now, there was some very interesting parallels we found. First, let me tell you what telegram. We also said in the telegram that we have received some information that might connect Watergate with Dallas. But we know beyond a shadow of a doubt from information we have that Sirhan could not have acted alone. The first letter we got came from the Vice President of the United States, Nelson Rockefeller, which he explained that he had received my telegram and that he was going to do a thorough investigation and that no stones would be left unturned. Well, I think what has happened is the civil rights problem and the civil rights movement in this country have pushed this country into a human rights movement. For the first time now we talk about Indians' problems, Chicanos' problems, and Puerto Ricans' problems. For the first time, we are constantly aware that women do exist. Chairmen have become chairperson. It's very obvious now that we're beginning to attack all the problems that exist in this country. That's progress in itself. I don't know how America will be able to deal with it. Down through the years, America has always needed a nigger to survive. The Jew was a nigger, the Italian was a nigger, the Indian, the Chicano, the Puerto Rican, the woman. I was amazed because I never realized the system was so mad that one day they would reach back and get their white kids to be the nigger. But I would say the young white kid in America is the nigger today. He's the butt of the jokes when he walks through the airport with his long hair. And he's the one that gets searched for no other reason than just the way he looked, because they just assume that he has dope on him. And it used to be the same way black folks was treated and harassed just because we were black. And so I would say that what I see coming now is probably the most devastating part for this country to get around, and that is I see America moving out of a racial conflict into a class struggle. And I would just hope that white folks would be able to deal with that as good as black folks and minority folks were able to deal with the racial conflict. There's a lot of white folks in America tonight, if they woke up tomorrow morning as black as me, would be out of work for no other reason than they're black. And so it's obvious that a lot of white folks got jobs and have nothing to do with their intelligence. Now, that's not saying that they're not intelligent. I'm saying intelligence has nothing to do with it. They got it because they're white.
Mentioned the role of the press in informing the people. Do you think that's the last stand we have in terms of providing the information to the people, make them aware of what's happening?
Yeah, if they start doing it. I don't think they do it. You know, about 85% of everything in newspapers is advertising. And, we have to know how to read the paper and take it from what we read and then go and break it down and do the research from that, Once you do that, then you see it.
You think the press is infiltrated by the CIA?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Sure. By all means. But I don't think that
much is that?
I don't think that
78?
has that much effect on as much as the people that own. Hey, brother, people that owns the press is part of the establishment. It's part of the problem. You know, people that own it, not the reporters.
Yeah.
How about the Wall Street Journal? No.
Too much bad news in that.
You got to know what the establishment's doing.
No, I can know what they're doing without reading the Wall Street Journal.
It's only morning paper. What about the morning record? The morning.
All right.
What National Observer? Weekly. Time Newsweek got today.
No, let me see the cover of Time Newsweek. Getting out. No, I'll pick that up later on down the line. Let me take it to you here. The New York Times today late, right? 2 days late? 2 days late. Okay, let me see. Where can I get the Times? Okay, how much is that? $2.10. $2.10? You out here? Skinny? You out here? Oh, yeah. You out here in the wintertime, too, don't you?
Every day.
Every day.
Oh, I take Christmas and Thanksgiving off.
You out here when them blizzards be coming through town, right?
That's right.
All right, Doctor. Just
Hey,
playing.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Fine, thank you. Okay, thank you so much. And they're getting ready for violence now in America. That's why you see so much violence on television. The number one violent movie in the world, the number one money-making movie in the world was Godfather. And somebody ought to question why that run in our living room. Usually you can't get a good money-making movie that quick. And NBC tells us they paid $10 million for it and wasn't able to make their money back. They just showed it to us out the goodness of their heart. How sad. And so I would definitely say that television is a strong means of manipulating the minds of people and setting up certain basic controls. Definitely.
This is it, huh?
Yeah.
Where you headed to?
Flagstaff, Arizona. University.
You make, what, 300 trips a year?
About close to 300 just on this alone. It's not counting what I would call corporation lectures and concerts and benefit shows that I do.
You ever get tired, man? You ever want to quit? Or you...
No. Keep your body right. Don't put a lot of mess in it, and it'll work for you.
Thanks a lot for doing the show with us and participating.
Pleasure. Fine. Okay. Peace be with all of you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, man. Have a good day.